Having recently completed a 3-day biking trip in Kent and Sussex, it was time to enjoy the English spring weather again, i.e. cold and wet, by going camping in Yorkshire. My cycling group is doing a ride up here in October, so I needed to do a survey. This time I drove to the campsite. The first 2 nights were in Ribblesdale, and so Ribble Rides is from Ribblesdale. The campsite was in the village of Horton, which is a starting point of the Yorkshire Dales 3 Peaks, which is a very long walking trip. Horton is located in the north of England, about 90 minutes north of Manchester and a similar distance south of the Scottish border. The River Ribble is the only river in the Dales which flows into the Irish Sea. Considering how far west this is, I'm not sure where the other rivers go. Horton is mentioned in the Domesday Book of 1086, and by the 1200s in Ribblesdale had been added to the name to distinguish itself from other places with the same name. Horton comes from Horu, meaning dirt, and Tun, meaning settlement, so its name means farm or muddy soil. It is. The Yorkshire Dales was designated a national park in 1954. The shape of the Dales was formed due to glaciers and weathering of the limestone rock. Limestone was deposited about 340 million years ago during the Carboniferous period. In those days the weather would have been better because the Dales were somewhere near the equator under a warm tropical ocean. At the time the waters were full of life with calcium-rich shells and skeletons. When the organism died, its body settled at the bottom of the sea. Over time, they piled up and compacted due to the sea pressure, becoming limestone rock. The soil colour ranges from whitish to grey depending on what other minerals are mixed in. Over thousands of years, rainwater erodes limestone, changing rock formations and also producing underground caves. Dry stone walls are a distinctive feature of the Dales and other parts of the UK. The Dales has about 8,000 kilometres, 5,000 miles of dry stone wall. They mark farm boundaries, keep farm animals in and predators out. Some date back to the 1200s, although most are about 200 years old or younger. They are called dry because they don't use cement, instead relying on the arrangement of different sized and shaped stones to stay in place. Typically only 6 metres yards of wall is built in a day using 12 tonnes of stone. They last more than 100 years with little maintenance. Starting in the 1600s, land ownership at the farm level started to be implemented, and by the 1800s, unenclosed commons or public land became rare. This led to a boom in dry stone wall construction. Some of this was achieved by farmers buying the land, and sometimes by laws requiring enclosure that were implemented by force, resistance and bloodshed. This increased farm productivity and reduced the number of people required to work the land. Farms on enclosed land often adopted the latest farming techniques, including mechanisation, which further increased productivity. It also changed the landscape and biodiversity. Enclosure resulted in protests and changes to village life, with the extra people often moving to cities which became crowded with poor people working in factories for little money. In 3 videos' time, I will be visiting a poorhouse, which is a direct result of enclosure. The Ribble Head Viaduct was built in the 1870s as part of the Settle Carlisle Railway. Hundreds of railway builders lost their lives building the line from a combination of accidents, fights and smallpox outbreaks, with the viaduct construction being the most dangerous. The loss of life was so high that the railway company paid for an expansion to the local graveyard. Fellow campers are about to leave, and it looks like the farmer is giving them a suggestion, although the first bale obviously has been lost.